Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the You Are My Oxford podcast. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be brighter. I bounced out of bed today. I'm so buzzing after watching us beat Derby yesterday. Dan, how are you feeling, lad?
I'm honestly, Matt, I'm absolutely hanging. I think I was out last night till very, very late. And then I was like, oh, God, I've got to do this podcast in the morning.
Oh, well done for making it.
Well,
I'll say that.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I think you're going to lead today. I'm buying.
Was it worth it, mate?
It was good fun. We weren't celebrating the victory, although it was nice to celebrate the victory. It's just a house party.
So what, you got home, I don't know, just shy of midnight or something?
I got home about 5 hours ago, so...
Good. Okay, well, let's do our best here, shall we?
Yeah, Matt, long-time listeners will remember back in, was it episode 11, episode 12, Matt promised us a guest from the world of sports media, and about 10 episodes later, he's finally delivered. Honestly, this is such a treat. We recorded it the other day. It's one of the funniest interviews I've ever been part of. I just laughed the whole way through. We've also, Matt, got a couple of guest cameos as well, haven't we?
At last, the Narb. The Narb is joining us, right, Dan?
You'll have to wait and see, Matty. You'll have to wait and see.
Okay, fair enough. First, though, let's get the topical stuff out of the way and chat a very needed home win on a Saturday against Derby County. You weren't there, Dan. I was.
Hit me with it, Matt. What was it like? Great win, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 1-0, it could have been 4, it could have been 5. I don't know. The only, negative was that it was a bit nervy in the last 10 minutes, but, we were flying. I think a lot's been made. Obviously, we had the Bristol City win and everyone was going, right, we've cracked it. We've got our 11. But then the games that came after that, people were speaking about balance yesterday, and we'll dig into this a bit more. It seemed the balance was absolutely perfect. So many great performances across the team. We're going to mention a few, but Kieran Brown, the wingers, the man up top, of course, Prelitz. It was just a good day and makes you very positive, Dan, because we spoke, didn't we, a couple of days ago about what we would like to get out of the 3 games that were Derby, Wrexham and Sheffield Wednesday. I think you were negative ninny as usual. You said you'd be happy. No, never. I was hoping for 5 points from those 3 games. Well, we've already got 3. And you go into the Wrexham game, you go into the Sheffield Wednesday game off the back of that, feeling pretty confident.
I think what we talked about, Matt, as well, was we said there's like a minimum number of points that is acceptable, and what that minimum points have been. I said 3 points. I think we needed 3 points from these next 3 games as a bare minimum. As you say, we've got those 3 points now.
Definitely got that.
But now, I mean, how many do we need from the next 2 then, Matt?
I would take 2. Honestly, I would take 2. I think, but let's see. We'll speak this time next week and see where we are.
Great to have Kieran Brown back, of course, as well.
Oh, it just lifted the whole place. There was just such a buzz when he was warming up. Amazing cheer, when his name was read out just before the game. And my God, he did not disappoint. He's a Rolls-Royce centre-back. And I know a lot's been made about, that left side of centre-back, and we've got Ben Davies in, and Sam Long does a job and everything. And I've always thought, it's a bit overblown. Like, if you're a centre-back, you're a centre-back, surely. But Kieran Brown slotting back in there just looks so dominant. It looked like a weight was lifted off Hellick's shoulders, I'll be honest. And I felt Jamie Cumming just look a bit calmer as well. It just added a bit of calmness throughout the whole team.
You sent me various messages throughout the game as well, and you're bigging up Prelitz. How are we saying? We're saying Prelitz. I think we're
saying a man like Prelitz, but he was a beast yesterday. He was a beast. There was a point in the second half when I've forgotten who it was. It might have been Spencer. Played a ball down towards the right corner flag, and 2 defenders were kind of like looking to jockey it out of touch. Prelitz literally bummed one out of the way, elbowed the other, both of them left lying on the floor, cut inside another defender, shot, and it was actually the Derby keeper who we know had a Paul Rees-esque game now, made a fantastic save. But that would have been one of the goals of the season.
The wingers as well. The wingers seem to have a great game also.
I mean, Dembele is, to me, a bit of an unsung hero this season, to be perfectly honest. I think, he's kind of got a bit of stick, hasn't he, for being our star signing last summer and maybe not quite delivering in his first season. And then he's almost had to battle his way into the team this season. And there's quite a bit of competition. You got Tyler, you got Shemi, obviously Mills, and no one was when the team sheet was read out. No one was signed, going, "Oh, that looks a weak link," and he seems to have developed a bit more of like almost a team ethic to it, tracking back a bit more, putting in a few more tackles. Obviously, he still does little things that frustrates you, but that's wingers, isn't it? But there was a couple of bits of skill that he did during the game yesterday, which is absolutely beautiful. I was just really pleased for him, and obviously Stan Mills. I mean, I was really happy for him yesterday. I think everyone in the ground was, because 5 minutes earlier he'd had an arguably better chance, which was very similar to the one he scored, and he should have put it away, to be perfectly honest. Again, the keeper made a decent save, but then 5 minutes later, exactly the same position. A lot of players could have kind of lost their head and shied away and looked at, I don't know, square it or, cut back. He didn't even think about it, and obviously passed it into the net. Lovely finish, and he was really happy.
Three in midfield as well, which a few people have been calling for a while. Will Volks is such a good bloke, and he's so hard working in midfield. Good, I think it's good to have him back in there as well. It gives the other two a bit of freedom, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, again, Will Volks, much maligned at time to time, but I've mentioned the B word already, balance. He does give you that. And I think one of the frustrating things this season has watched Cameron Brannigan kind of not be himself a lot of the time, and not quite knowing what he needs to do or what he should be doing. That's why he's always been seemed to be in that kind of holding midfield space, looking to draw in fouls and that kind of thing, which isn't really his game. Volks comes in, plays not quite that metronome, but is kind of that buffer. And it allows Brannigan just to be a bit more creative, not worry over his shoulder so much. And obviously BDK again, just like, probably not his best game in the yellow shirt, but he makes those decisive moments. And the ball for Mills was just absolutely sublime. And there were a few other raking passes across the pitch during the afternoon, which was just fantastic. But, having Volks in there allows those two to be a bit more creative and not have to worry about the other stuff, as they say. So, yeah, balance again. This week's all about balance, Dan.
It is, man. I do love a bit of balance. Volks has had quite a week for Oxford off the field as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. He's just a great person to have around the club and such a representative, and just been speaking this week so incredibly about mental health and awareness and suicide prevention, and just been such a fantastic advocate and a representative for Oxford United Football Club. And what made me quite proud as an Oxford United fan on Saturday was obviously Baton of Hope were there, and the leader of Baton of Hope gave a speech ahead of the game and just said Oxford United are an absolute pioneer in this space, and the club should essentially be applauded for that. And it just made you a bit proud. There was obviously the Will Volks video was played before the game, and a really big clap just ahead of the game. And I think Oxford United are leading in that space, and it's really nice to see that our club is doing that.
Good week for our club all round then. Obviously, we also had the news about the stadium. Looks like it might be happening now.
Looks like it might be happening. And also, this is obviously great news, and I think everyone's excited. But I guess now it's almost quite, it's tangible. And now the next question is, well, when are the first forks going in the ground? And, suddenly once earth starts to be moved and you start to see kind of things taking shape on that side, it will start to get very exciting. So, still a long way off, but it seemed like that was a major kind of final hurdle to jump over. And yeah, good, isn't it?
Very, very, very exciting. What is even more exciting, though, Matt, is our next part of our podcast, which is the interview we recorded the other day with our very, very special guest.
It's a good one. Run that sting. Now, I'm sure a lot of our listeners know already, but Dan and I met at work over 20 years ago in London, and we literally couldn't believe it when we found out we both supported Oxford.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a small team of us, and bizarrely, there are 3 Oxford fans in it. So it's really nice to have people who you knew at work who you could talk to, who knew their Narbit from their Nogan.
Exactly that. Now, luckily we don't work together anymore. Thank God for that. But in a later job, I had the great pleasure to meet yet another Oxford United fan. Now, listeners, this is someone who many of you will probably have seen on your TV screens, probably quite a lot, but probably never known he's an Oxford fan. It is our great pleasure to welcome that football reporter off the telly, Simon Watts. Si, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I did note last week that you said you introduced Matty Taylor as you've got a real A-lister lined up. So we're going to the other end of the alphabet, I think, for this one this week. It's been a little bit like a Carl Robinson transfer, I feel. We've been talking about it for the best part of 6 months. And then at the end of it, you're expecting, I don't know, a Simon Clist or a Simon Weatherstone or a Simon Eastwood, and you get Simon Watts. So, yeah, sorry to disappoint.
Mate, we've been teasing this to listeners so much, but it's an absolute pleasure to have you finally. And please don't worry, this chat isn't going to be delving in too much in about your TV career. This is about you as an Oxford fan.
I was going to say that won't take too long, to be fair. So.
No, please. No, you do yourself a disservice. If you wouldn't mind just letting Oxford fans kind of know where they might have seen you before or indeed heard you before.
Yeah, so I mean, I do commentary for Sky on the EFL for Sky Sports. I've been busted on Twitter a few times when I've done Oxford United because I struggle to hide. I support Oxford on social media. Let's be honest, there's no point trying to hide it. And yeah, do a little bit of Talk Sport. Still work at BBC Oxford actually because good old Jerome gave me my break years and years ago, like many on the production line. And I still go back. And do a few bits and pieces there because we're really good mates, well, not just at work but outside of it, I like to think as well. So yeah, kind of all over the place really, but yeah, primarily when it comes to social media, I've just given up on trying to be impartial really. It's pretty obvious I support Oxford.
Mate, I wanted to pick up on that actually. What's it like, a couple of questions. What's it like reporting on Oxford as an Oxford fan for a national audience? And what's it like, imagine it's very tricky to be impartial, but also what's it like reporting on other teams while Oxford United are playing in a crucial game as well?
Yeah, do you know, that is actually harder than it's probably the question I get asked the most. I've kind of become used to doing Oxford and being impartial now. The weirdest one I had actually was years ago. I got a call quite last minute to cover, you get this as a freelancer, you guys will know, late in the day to do Oxford Swansea in the FA Cup when Kemar Roofe scored those 2 goals, and it was for Swansea Sound. So I'm there trying to sound the other way, gutted when Kemar Roofe is banging them in, scoring those 2 great goals. That was tough. And I don't know, maybe the regular came back because they never asked me back after that.
Oh mate, I love that. I just love that idea of you presenting for Swansea Sound.
It was horrible. Yeah,
that's tricky.
It must have thought I've done a lot of homework on the opposition as well, but
like listeners, Watsy is Simon is one of probably the biggest Oxford fan that I know. He loves Oxford more than anyone else I know. But presumably, Si, your job means you can't actually get to many Oxford games these days.
Yeah.
That must be tricky.
That is the downside. And again, when you are working on Oxford, look, I'd never complain about it because you're getting paid to watch Oxford United. It's the ultimate busman's holiday, but you can't jump around the press box when they score. And so it is a little bit of a different experience. It's all right, Radio Oxford, you can be partisan, but you do have to try and keep a lid on it. And trust me, it doesn't go down well when opposition reporters, and I have seen it before without naming clubs, have kind of got a little bit too excited in the press box. But yeah, it's difficult. I try and get to as many as I can. I did have a season ticket about 3-4 years just off the back of COVID times. But otherwise, I'm actually, this weekend is going to be my third game of the season. So yeah, it's tough, but my kids are of an age now where my daughter's 10, my little boy's 7, and they're really getting into it. I mean, he is totally bitten by the bug. I've created a monster because he's like bombarding me with facts. We were talking on the car on the school run just now about goals from the halfway line. So obviously straight away we were watching Pete 11 and Kemar Roofe on YouTube. So he buzzes off it. So as a result of that, I try and designate, I don't know, maybe one game every month, 6 weeks or so to try and, because it's been a hard propaganda campaign, as you will both appreciate. It is tough these days. You're competing in a market with YouTube clips of Ronaldo and Messi and all sorts, aren't you? So it's tough.
It's very tough, isn't it?
Si, kids must be so proud, right? You must be the coolest dad on the school run.
I don't know, because, and this is probably why I keep on making excuses when I've not done this until we found the subject we're going to talk about in a little bit. I don't really talk about it with them that much, so I don't know that they necessarily. I mean, my kids do, obviously, but to them it's just I go off to work on a Saturday and that's that, really. And then on the school run, I mean, I live where I used to grow up, actually, so quite a lot of people on the school run anyway, so I tend to just get my head down, get in and out, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, I suppose it is a cool job. I mean, it's like I say, it's getting paid to watch football is brilliant, but there's always a part of you that sort of feels like I don't think I'll be doing this till I retire. So you just got to enjoy it while you can, really.
Now, listeners, if you follow Simon on socials, you'll know that something rather incredible happened at a recent game. Si, tell us why Northampton v Rotherham was particularly significant for your family.
Yeah, so my dad happens to be a cameraman. Those of a 90s vintage. His claim to fame is he used to be the cameraman who ran around after Annika Rice on Challenge Annika. That was him, Keith the cameraman. And he's also famous for a whole end at Oxford United chanting "wanker, wanker" at him as he a very big misunderstanding last season against Pompey. When we'll come on to that in a minute. But so that's his kind of claim to fame. At least he's had the Oxford fans singing at him. But so he's a cameraman, and for the first time I've done this 20 odd years. He's been doing it for nearly 50. We ended up on the same game together. There's a lot of nepotism in the industry, and I might add that he's obviously been a good support for me over the years. But he didn't get me into Sky or anything like that. Kind of did my own career path. But he's just, it's kind of a natural thing. We got the call sheet through the week before the game, and there we were, both sat next to each other on the call sheet, and then in the stand at Sixfields, me commentating and him on the camera. So that was pretty cool. And then weirdly, I'm doing the Oxford Stoke game in a couple of weeks, and we're together again. So like two come along at once. That will be a bit more tricky.
Right, absolutely love that. And can I just quickly say to Dan, can we get Keith the cameraman from Challenge Annika fame on the pod, please? Maybe should we just scrap Si now and move on to that?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
Did you not? I don't know. Yeah,
there
you go.
And in the pre-match, for the pre-recording information you sent us that he did something else for fantasy football as well, which I thought was absolutely amazing also.
Yeah. So so we'll get on to the letters in a little bit. But my dad used to be the cameraman on Fantasy Football League in the 90s with Baddiel and Skinner, and they used to film this sketch for each show called Phoenix from the Flames. And for people who didn't watch it, they'd recreate a famous goal with a famous player, and they fly all around the world to do it. So they had like Ronald Koeman recreating the moment when he hacked down, who was it? He ran through on goal for England basically when we missed out on the World Cup.
David Platt, was it?
Yeah, David Platt in '94. Did loads of them. Anyway, they did one with Dino Baggio, and he got Dino Baggio's autograph, which I've got here in front of me, to Simon Dino Baggio. Now, I'm in the middle of a house move, which is why I came across all this stuff. And I've actually got a shirt that was worn in that sketch by Dino Baggio somewhere, and I couldn't find it in time for this recording. And I've never washed it, and I've not really worn it properly ever. But the coolest thing about it, and I only discovered this myself, is it's got the call sheet with the original script. I don't know if you can see there on the front of it, which is quite cool. The whole sketch, which yeah, that was quite cool. So yeah, he met Dino Baggio. My dad's got a terrible memory though, so he's even more blasé about what he does than I am. Really, he doesn't really remember half of these things, and then he'll just suddenly randomly drop that into a conversation. I don't know if I could tell this story or not, but he revealed at a family dinner last year when my in-laws were both there as well that he paid for the patio in our garden when I was a kid because he filmed a porno in the 1980s. And apparently it's a well-known thing within the industry. It's a well-known thing within the industry that the main bloke character in it wears like a silver watch. And if they're struggling, shall we say, to get to the end of the scene, they ring up the phone and they've got someone, which is a baseball term, called the finisher, who comes along and puts the watch on.
This is a way better chat than I ever imagined. Can we just talk about stuff like this rather than Oxford United?
So you can add the rest together and work out what the finisher's job is, but it paid for the patio. And but bearing in mind, at this table I'm sat at now, he was telling this story to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, like zero filter whatsoever.
Oh, mate,
Industry insight for you.
I don't know where to go from there. I don't know
Me
where to
neither.
go from there.
That
Dan,
wasn't on my notes, by the way. That yeah. So you can cut that out if you want.
I think we need to go slightly back on the script. You mentioned changing tone totally.
Yeah.
You mentioned the incident with your dad last year, and you
Yeah.
kind of left that story hanging. I think it's such an amazing story, and I think we need to hear your dad's side of the story from you, because it's a really awful situation he found himself in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so basically what happened, the Oxford Pompey game, there was an incident in the North Stand where a fan was taken ill, so there was a delay in the game, and my dad was on the camera behind the goal, basically, and a couple of pictures went up on social media, which sort of made it look like he was filming the incident, which obviously he wasn't. And weirdly, I was working in Stockley Park that day on the ITV highlight show, which is one of the other things I work on. And so I was driving in, listening to Radio Oxford, and I could hear them talking about this. I was like, I'm sure my dad's the cameraman behind the goal. And they were kind of referencing it. But what's even worse is his nephew, my cousin's little boy, was a mascot that day. So my cousin was in the crowd sort of watching it with his 8-year-old kid while it was all happening, and he starts texting me as well. And then I get to work, and obviously it's on Twitter and stuff, this cameraman, blah, blah, blah. Look, it was what I would say, my sort of summarizing of it, and we've talked about it, and he's cool with it now. Obviously, at the time, it was pretty scary because he was sort of getting 70-year-old bloke getting hounded out behind the goal because of a few pictures that went around it, and a bit of a mob mentality kicked in. But you saw the worst, but you also then saw the best in people after. Because I'm literally talking hundreds of messages from people neither of us knew. Some we did, some we didn't. The club were great, and yeah, it kind of the message got out quite quickly as to what had happened. And look, I had the luxury, I suppose, for want of a better word, of being able to go into the studio, and literally first thing I did was check the footage, and it's like, well, it's obvious the camera's pointing down the pitch, but why one or two people thought that it may have been something different. But also when you sort of contextualize it and the dust settles, I ended up speaking to the sort of couple of people that put those initial tweets out there, and they're like 17, 18 years old, and I think they probably didn't realize the storm it would cause as well. So it kind of blew over in the end. And as I say, he had a whole stand chanting at him, which is probably what he wanted as a kid growing up. It's just a shame they were abusing him, but But also the other thing is he's made some mates up there as a result of it now, because a few people messaged a couple of like maybe old school London roaders, shall we say, saying, we'll look after you at the next game you're back up there. We'll make sure you're all right. You won't get any trouble, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of have a good old chat and reminisce about the old days now, and, bring each other cups of tea and things like that. So he's kind of got his own security behind the goal. So all's well that ends well. And yeah, as I say, he's all right about it now.
Simon, there's Matt's told me in the notes that once upon a time he might have been your boss.
Yeah, he was.
Any truth in this? And what the hell was that like? I mean, it's quite bossy on this part.
It was great. I wish I could dig the dirt, but no, it was great. So we worked together at a place called Premier League Productions, and we didn't really know each other before that, and discovered we were both Oxford United fans, so that was great. And also, funnily enough, Matt didn't reveal the thing I know he hates and squirms about talking about the most, is that he used to play football, and it kind of came up in a conversation when I think somebody might have been organising a 5-a-side football match, and they're like, you need to get Matty Gooderick involved. Yeah, he's great football. Blah, blah, blah. And then it transpires, I thought about it, and I kind of like did the maths. I don't even know if I told you, I don't even know if I've told you this before, Matt. But so when I first started out at Radio Oxford, the thing that used to be is like Jerome would send you out to Banbury United and various other non-league clubs and do half-time, full-time reports. So in that period when you were there, because I remember it so well, because Kevin Brock was manager and he lived in the same village as my dad. I probably reported on at least a dozen, I'd say, if not more, Banbury United games. So almost certainly I would have reported on you scoring, but I didn't keep any kind of team sheets or anything like that, so I can't be sure. But I remember doing a game once, and it was a cup match there, and I was bursting for the toilet in the second half. I might have had a pint at half time, I don't know. And it was 1-0 to Banbury, and then the away team scored when I was in the toilet. So I come out, Oxford just beaten Notts County away. I remember it that vividly, because it's one of them horror stories. And they come to me, and I'm like, yeah, Banbury United 1-0. They're through to the next round of the Oxfordshire Senior Cup or whatever it is, as I see both teams changing ends. and I'm having to basically then start blagging it that Hungerford or whoever it might have been.
Oh,
at
it's
each
too
time.
good. That's
Yeah.
too good. That's too good. Lovely that our paths have crossed
Yeah.
over the years. So really nice. Right. Let's get back to the proper stuff. Let's get back to Oxford United. We've meandered together, but I've loved it. Why Oxford United as a kid?
Because my family supported Oxford, and basically, I really wish I could remember my first ever game, but basically how it panned out was that my dad and my mum used to play sport on a Saturday, and so I used to get dumped off at my nan and granddad's house every Saturday afternoon with my cousins, and that was great, happy memories growing up. But my eldest cousin starts then getting into football and tagging along with my granddad and uncle, who are no longer with us anymore, but lifelong Oxford fans, Clive and Don. And because I had massive FOMO when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I just probably quite annoyingly to them used to just tag along with them. So in the heyday, and I reckon it's about 87, 88 that I started going. I'd be there through those first division days, and I cannot remember a thing about any of the matches. The only things I remember are we used to sit on the beach road, on the open bit of the beach road terrace, and my granddad used to bring like an old milk float thing, the plastic thing that the milk floats used to carry around, so that me and my cousin Danny could stand on it at the front, 'cause no real health and safety then.
They used to see a lot of those on the beach road.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was probably really annoying for people stood behind as well, but that was us, I'm afraid. And and trying to tap players on the shoulder, obviously so close to the pitch, as you well know, when they're taking throw-ins and just like random stuff like that, and looking at the London Road when they used to have the cage behind it at the time, and just like going into school on a Monday morning and relaying some of the chants and the naughty words that you used to hear come from behind the goal. And that was it. And it was only really in the early 90s that I sort of then started getting into football. So I watched the glory years, the latter part of it, and yeah, it's so annoying. And I just wish I will never know what my first game was. I will never know. But yeah, then I was into wrestling, basically. WWF is that era. And I went to Wembley to SummerSlam 90, and this was the sliding doors moment in my Oxford United supporting career, because I had a mate called Scott Rogers at school who, it was the British Bulldog against Bret the Hitman Hart for the Intercontinental title, right? 90,000 at Wembley. And the day before he said to me, well, British Bulldog's going to win, isn't he? It's obvious because it's all choreographed and, like, he's not going to lose at Wembley. And then I went and British Bulldog won. I suddenly realised, oh yeah, this isn't real, is it? And that's when I kind of started getting into football.
Mate, I love that. We've only done 15 minutes or so of this chat, and I've learned that we were stood next to the beach road together. We're both into wrestling.
Yeah.
Actually, you came and reported me on football, and then obviously we ended up working. Our lives have just intertwined throughout. So this is this.
And
this
how
is great.
and more importantly than all of that, how you finish off a 1980s blue movie.
Yeah, most importantly.
That wasn't you, Matt, that came on with the watch, was it?
I was going to say that watch looked familiar. I have seen the videos,
The finisher.
That's what they called you at Banbury. So.
Matt finished.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on.
So we've been meaning to have you on for ages, as we alluded to. But when you contacted Matt a couple of weeks ago to say you were ready, you also announced this little box of treasures that you'd found in your loft, and you thought it'd be fun to talk about it. I agree. I love this so much. When Matt told me about it, I literally couldn't believe it. Tell us about your little box of treasures that you're going to tell us about.
Yeah, so I'd had a few beers actually when I texted Matt at the time, because we'd just beaten Bristol City 3-1. And that week before, preparing for our move, I'd been in the loft getting loads of stuff down, and I came across this box, and I remembered I'd done this, but I didn't realise I kept all of them, to be honest. When I was I wasn't even, I would have been about 12. I wrote to Mickey Lewis to tell him he was my favourite Oxford United player, and he was actually my mum's favourite player, because randomly, every now and again, my mum would take me to watch Oxford, but she didn't like football. But she loved the fact that Mickey Lewis used to kind of do this thing where he'd jockey people and shepherd them, wouldn't he? And she was sort of became a little bit obsessed with this. He was my mum's favourite player as a result of that as well. So I wrote to Mickey Lewis, and my stepdad said to me, look, what you got to do to get a reply, you got to really play on the heartstrings a bit. So it makes it sound like you've come from a bit of a broken home. So why don't you say, my stepdad's bet me that you won't reply? And then he'll think, oh, poor kid, And anyway, Mad Dog sends me a letter back. And this basically started the ball rolling for something that I will admit got a little bit out of control. So here he is. Look, Mad Dog signed photo. Bless
I
him.
love that.
What a guy. And he wrote a little message on it that you can just about maybe make out there. Basically says, "Thanks for the letter, Simon. It was appreciated. I hope you show this to your stepdad and mates." So it just kind of proves, kids, like, tell lies and you succeed in
Mate,
life.
Mate, I love this so much. And obviously, you didn't stop there, right? So
I
you
got a taste for it, it's fair to
you
say,
got
yeah.
a taste for it, right? So you write this letter, you get the reply from Mickey with a picture, and
Yeah.
then something snowballs.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners what happened from there and how many letters you ended up writing to Oxford players.
Well, I'm afraid to say the floodgates opened. And we will be here all night if we go through all of them. But if I present to you the envelopes and just give you this random eclectic mix, and if you want to see any, just let me know. The legendary, mysterious Bobby Ford. And I used to quite detailed autograph on front of programme.
He didn't
So,
put an address, did he?
well, I know, yeah, we spent a long
We've
time.
been
I mean,
trying to track him down for a couple of years.
not that exciting, to be fair. Sorry, Bobby, but yeah, that's it. That's the sum total of it. A signed programme from Oxford v Cardiff, and I think Paul Moody got sent off. It's funny how you remember like every single detail of everything from the 90s, and I don't remember anything from yesterday. The one and only Mark Druce. And again, it's just an autograph there. Look, Mark Druce, looking very
It's
90s
funny
head.
what you remember. I went into a hairdresser's and asked them, could you do me a Mark Druce haircut?
You still
No
kind of got
way.
it now, actually. It does sort of. Yeah, I can see the resemblance there. Quite Lego-y, isn't it? Not your hair,
sat
Mark
next
Druce's.
to Mark Druce at Huddersfield away in 97, 98. I was literally
Yeah.
sitting down watching the game. We lost
Was that when we
1-0.
won 3-0?
No, we lost 1-0. Chris White was making his debut for us, the ex-Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I turned to the guy
Yeah.
next to me and said, "Oh, this is a bit crap, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah, it's a bit crap." It's bloody Mark Druce. I think he'd
I
gone
was
to
at-
Rotherham by that point, so he was like
Oh,
living up
that
north.
makes sense then. Yeah, I was at Twerton Park when he scored a couple of goals against Bristol Rovers, and I kind of got the only time ever at football, I got crushed at the fence at the front when he scored because there was such a surge on that terrace. And then he hit the bar to nearly get his hat-trick with an absolute beauty of a shot. And I was like, as a kid, thinking like, don't score, please don't score. And it beat us 3-2 in the end, but we were 2-0 up. I like this one, by the way, because for the lack of effort, and I'm sorry to dig this particular player out, but I'm afraid must do better, Darren Purse. Because look, come on, Percy.
Mate, if there was a player I would imagine to send a photo of himself, it was Darren Purse. I'm surprised he didn't.
You'd have thought, or maybe he had so many requests that he'd run out because he was a very popular, good-looking guy, wasn't he?
Right. Okay, so you're giving a little selection that. Well, wait, go
Yeah,
on.
there you go.
Tell us about this one.
Sorry, yeah. No, as I say, we will be here all day, so I will stop. Yeah, moods. I can. So carry on.
Okay, so we've had Paul Moody, we've had Juicy, we've had Darren Purse. How many did you end up receiving in the end?
Well, there is a story behind this, and I won't keep getting all of these out. Wayne Biggins. It gets so random. Paul Wanless, which I think maybe we should come back to because he wrote a lovely letter.
We'll come back to Paul a bit later because we want to
That's
speak to you
Rambo
about that one.
Reese. I can show this address because I don't live there anymore, so you can send hate mail to whoever does. Alex Dyer, my lords. John Byrne. Who's this? Oh, this. So this is to the story. Nick Cusack there. Mike Ford. And Mike Ford has sent me a signed Bristol Rovers programme from the entire Oxford United squad. So to give this context, I looked at the date of that programme. It's October, right? What happened basically was, I think I contacted Mad Dog about February, March time. Then I started getting on a roll. And I'll be honest, I wrote to everybody. But I didn't kind of, in my young 12-year-old head, realise that come the end of the season, all the players disappear off into the summer and then come back again. So when they came back in July, I had this vision of the Oxford players going, "Have you got a letter from this guy saying you're my favourite player? Can you send me a picture?" "Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's mentioned his stepdad. Yeah, it didn't." And so it sort of stopped in August. I hit a brick wall. So in the end, I must have, as club captain, obviously, must have written to Fordy saying, I'm not having this. None of them are writing back to me. And he's gone, I'll just get them all to sign a programme and then he'll give up, which I did.
I've got to ask, what were you putting in your letters? Give us the kind of standard approach of one of your letters then. So obviously you mentioned the stepdad, so give us a bit
Yeah.
more. Give us
Yeah,
the kind
very
of
much that. I mean,
pleading
I
that you
haven't
would
got a
do.
copy of any of my letters, but I'm guessing they were handwritten. And, basically it would have been along the line. Yeah, I really don't know. It would have just been along the lines of, like, you're my I mean, when we come to the Paul Wanless letter, you'll see there is a sort of slightly creepy edge to some of them. Slightly creepy edge, because I obviously mentioned to Paul Wanless that I'd seen him in Bicester, which he references, which is a bit strange, I must admit.
It's a bit like Eminem and that Stan song a
It
bit,
is,
isn't
yeah,
it?
Stan. Yeah.
Now, all right, we want to delve into a few of these letters specifically, and listeners, as you know, Dan is an editing whiz, and ahead of this episode, we got Si to read out some of his favourite letter replies.
Simon, thank you very much for the letter that you sent to me. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I've been a bit lazy when it comes to writing letters. That's what it actually says. I appreciate you realise why I had to leave for Oxford. It was nothing to do with the club or the fans, because I really enjoyed my time at the Manor. Anyway, I'm glad they got off to a good start, beating Chesterfield 1-0. I haven't played yet because I've been laid low with a virus. Hopefully I will be fully fit soon. 2 pages, this letter. I have enclosed a signed photo for you so that you can prove to your friends that I did read your letter. See, kids, but they always reply. The proof's in the pudding. Anyway, good luck for the future. I might see you in the new year at the Manor. Yours sincerely. And he's even put a photo in, look. John Byrne.
Oh, mate, that's just beautiful, beautiful.
You
That
tell, I
was
get very easily carried away with these things.
Yeah, but that was, as you will have heard, that was 90s Oxford striker John Byrne. His letter to Simon Watts, read out in the dulcet tones of TV's Simon Watts. Absolute gold.
I am totally fascinated by all these letters and why you decided to send them. The next one we're going to play is the Brian Horton letter. Now, younger listeners, Brian Horton was our manager for like 5 to 6 seasons, which were, I think, at best mediocre and at worst kind of battling or ugly. He then left us totally bizarrely to become Manchester City manager in the Premier League, which is as bizarre as it sounds now. And then he got fired, and then he moved to Huddersfield, which is when, Simon, you decided to write to Brian Horton.
Yeah. I think I was just on a roll, and as I say, by that summer I started to get snubbed, so I branched out, shall we say. I branched out, got the Rothmans out, and started to think, okay, who's left the club? So, Paul Wanless, who knows, maybe he never got an Oxford United fan writing to him ever before. Brian Horton probably did, probably not as nice as my letter, to be fair, probably a bit creepy, but yeah, I don't know. Again, some of the ones I went through later on, I can't even remember them playing for Oxford. Lance Key and Tony Dobson. I mean, I don't know.
Too good.
Yeah.
Can we play this Brian Horton letter? Because I think it's just, again, a lovely thing.
Dear Simon, thank you for your good wishes on my appointment as team manager at Huddersfield Town. It's very much appreciated. I enjoyed my time at Manchester City and Oxford United, but I'm now looking forward to my career with Huddersfield, which I hope will be a successful one. Sadly, it wasn't. Once again, many thanks for your letter. Now you can show this to all of your friends, just to prove we always respond to our supporters. Best wishes for the new season. Brian Horton out. And by the way, this was blatantly typed by his secretary.
Simon, it left
hope
2
Brian's
years
not
previous,
watching.
man. You are scraping barrels that I didn't know existed.
I love it. Obviously, you mentioned the Mike Ford letter, which I guess kind of brought everything to an end. How long was this letter writing period? And what did you think when it came to an end? What were your thoughts? Did you move on? Did you gravitate on something else?
Yeah, I must have. Yeah, I mean, what else could a 14, 15-year-old boy gravitate onto after writing letters to footballers? Who knows? Yeah, so it goes on, and as I say, I can just imagine, like, starting off with the names you all know. I've got, Magic Jim Magilton there. I've got a letter here from Chrissy Allen during his brief stay with Nottingham Forest, to the more bizarre ones. John Aldridge, that was basically just a greetings card, so I won't bother you with that one. Tony Dobson, I mean, can you remember him? I have no idea who he is. Genuinely.
I remember Dobson. Centre back, wasn't he? Was he signed as cover? When
Maybe. I genuinely, and I'm normally quite good with Oxford players, I have not got a clue who
yeah,
Tony Dobson is.
Dobbo,
Sorry,
yeah, I think
Tony.
so.
I'm sure he's watching. Well, this one looks like it's somehow resealed itself as proof that I've not
Mate,
opened
they
it.
just keep coming.
Ray Houghton in his Crystal Palace day.
I love the way that you did go Ray Houghton and Aldo. You thought, right, might as well reach for the stars here.
Yeah, do both in one foul swoop here. Simo,
Oh,
yeah, he
yeah.
got back to me in his Derby County day. I mean, it is endless. If you could
It's
see my
too
table
good.
now,
It's too good.
it took me a week to clear my loft, and 4 of those days were just these letters.
Dan, we've chosen one more letter, haven't we?
We have chosen one more letter, but rather than get you to read it out, which, although you did send us a recording, I thought, who better to read it out than the person himself, a friend of ours on Facebook. Let's have a look at this.
Now, many years ago, when I was a young player at Oxford, I remember there was a kid who kept sending these letters requesting if a player would reply or things like that. And I think we did a programme for him, a lad called Simon. So he was so annoying. No, I'm only joking, Simon. It's a pleasure. And I think you sent me what actually sent you. Letter I wrote to Simon Watts. Gosh, and I was at Lincoln City then. I just left Oxford United to go and sign for Lincoln, so a year or two ago. The letter, let's see how good or bad I was at writing letters. Dear Simon, thank you very much for your recent kind letter. Like you, I was also very disappointed to be given a transfer from Oxford to Lincoln. Having been a supporter of Oxford for many years, it was a great honour to play for them. You never know, in a couple of years, you yourself may run out wearing the famous yellow shirt. Although I have other priorities at the moment, i.e. Lincoln City, I always look for Oxford's results straight after my game. You said in your note, you may have seen me in Bicester. That's probably true, as I lived there since I was born. Keep your eyes peeled for me, I'm often back there visiting family. On a final note, I would like to thank you once again for your letter, and would like to wish you the very best for the future. Yours sincerely, Paul Wanless. So yeah, Simon, thanks for the letter. I did reply to you, and I hope you, you've kept it after all these years. So yeah, hopefully it brought you a bit of joy. I wish you all the best. Cheers.
It really did. It really did bring joy. Wow, Paul Wanless. That's amazing.
Dan, how did you do that? How did you track him down?
So, literally, we on Facebook, we now set up a Facebook page, as well you know, Matt, and we are doing incredibly well in terms of listeners joining our Facebook community, but also a whole heap of ex-players have joined up. It started up, I guess I've turned into Simon in a funny sort of way. A former player popped up, I can't remember who was the first, and I thought, well, I'll send them a friend request. And then they accepted, and then that opened up a little window of a few more former players. So now, literally, we've got about 4 squads worth.
God, so they're actually going to hear me talking about potentially writing to them. This
yeah.
A whole lot more. So, I'm sorry, Tony Dobson. I didn't mean it. You were great.
So absolutely blessed Paul Wanless. I contacted him and I said, listen, I think it'd be quite good fun if you were to do this. And he said, yeah, no problem at all. That does sound like fun. In his lunch break, he sent me a little video message, which...
Wow.
So Paul Wanless, like, what a great guy. Well worth sending a letter to.
Just wow. I mean, it's, absolute pleasure to kind of delve and look back through these letters. So thank you so much for sharing them.
So I think what you're sitting on here with your photos and your collection of letters is an incredible archive. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to make sure it doesn't get mouse eaten?
Well, they're in a perfectly binded thing saying football letters.
Beautiful.
So, and as I say, I went into it and suddenly, and they're all, I've obviously gone to a lot of work to log this, Mike Ford. So here they are. So yeah, after tonight, I'll put them back in there and get them out in 20 years.
Mate, honestly, these need to be put in a museum. I think if there's someone from the club now, hopefully they'll be getting in touch with you. At the very least, I think we need to get all these framed on the wall at Frankie and Benny's Littlemore branch. I think that would be, in the toilet or something up there.
Or the new stadium.
Yeah. But as you say, mate, it's, such a lovely glimpse into, a different time, a different world. And, it was incredible. And I just love that kind of, immediate contact you could have with players. And I'm sure to a certain extent you can now. But yeah, wonderful.
Oh, my pleasure.
Before we move on, I've been asked again. Matt just feeds me little things that I have to ask you beforehand. And I've been asked to ask you about gate crashing an Oxford United party. That's all he told me.
Yeah, so I think this could be a good topic, maybe, of bumping into players in random places, Oxford players. And I've got a couple, but yeah, this was a particularly random one. So it was when we played Northwich on that last day of the season and just missed out on the playoffs and the points deduction. And Chris Wilder called it Epoxy League, and Billy Turley rugby tackled a fan on the pitch. Eventful. It was a Sunday game, wasn't it? So afterwards, me and my mate called Jez went out in Oxford, and as we were walking down the street, I can't remember the name of the street, next to where the mound is by the shopping centre, there was a guy sat in a bus stop smoking a fag on the phone. And as we got closer, we suddenly realised it was Billy Turley. So we sort of go through this ritual of like, shall we speak to him? Shall we not? And in the end, we did, because he looked a bit sort of lost, and he was. Anyway, struck up a conversation. Right, Billy, Oxford fans. Basically, he was lost trying to find the end of season players party, which was in that pub off Gloucester Green, was it like the Firkin or something like that? So a bit of quick thinking, again, slightly sort of stalkerish, you might want to say. My mate Jez goes, "Oh, well, yeah, we were going there actually. Yeah, well, you can walk with us if you want, Billy." So of course we then end up in this pub. It's a Sunday night, so it's not that busy. We walk through this door. The entire Oxford United squad are there at their end of season do. And Billy Turley, being Billy Turley, and what a top bloke he was, literally said, "Lads, come and have a pint, come and join us." So we stood at the bar with like Beano and Lewis Haldane, I remember, was there, all these players. Adam Murray wasn't drinking. And anyway, so Damien Batt really didn't want to talk to us. I remember that. He really did not want to engage, whereas all the others sort of humoured us. So we were like, well, we'll just have a couple of pints and we'll go on our way, and we won't bother them. We were trying to be socially aware. But then as they move on to the bar up the road, Billy Turley's like, "Lads, come with us, come on." He was like literally saying, you've got to come. And I'm not joking. He was inviting us along. So we went along, and again, we were trying to mingle into the background. And we, again, had a few more drinks. Every now and again, Billy Turley would come and like check in on us and make sure we were having a good time. He was obviously a little bit drunk at this point. So he's then saying, "Lads, next season, honestly, Wilder is going to sort this team out. Half these lads won't even be here." And he's saying, he'll be gone. So it's getting more interesting. Then we see Adam Chapman being carried off in like a fireman's lift by a bouncer towards the door. And we think, well, maybe we should go, really. But we're like, you know what? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can't. So we just couldn't leave at that point. So we stayed by the bar, again, keeping our distance. And then we start getting some shots in. And I turn around and Kevin Sandwith is stood next to me. So, all right, and I remember specifically going, "You want a B-52 bomber," which was the shot of the time. And he's like, "No, it's all right, mate. I better not." Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll get a couple of these in. So Jez and I are getting these shots in. Next thing, there's a tap on my shoulder, and there is Kevin Sandwith with a big cheeky grin on his face. He goes, "Go on then." So we got Lewis. So we basically had a shot of whatever this was with Kevin Sandwith. So anyway, we are drunk. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. We're drunk now, and I leave Jez at the bar to go to the toilet, and we're like, right, let's make our way now, because it's one of these where we don't want to overstay our welcome. We've been here for 4 hours. We don't want to overstay our welcome. And I come back, and Jez is sat on a stool with Yemi Oda Bailey, deep in conversation. And Yemi's just going, yeah, no, I agree, mate. No, you're absolutely right. And as I approach, I realise Jez, who I've been playing five-a-side football with a few hours earlier up at Brooks Uni, not really a footballer in any way, shape or form, is effectively telling Yemi how to play football. The thing is, Yemi, you go on these great runs, but then you just run down a blind alley, and you got no end product, really. Yeah, you just got to look up, Yemi. And Yemi was obviously such a nice guy that he was just agreeing with him. So anyway, then I'm like, Jez, we are off, and take him out. Very next day, they release their retained list, and Yemi is gone. So his last
Oh,
night as an Oxford United player, and he'd been there a few years then, hadn't he, was to be told by some 30-something-year-old punter how to play football. Although he got the last laugh because he got promoted with Stevenage the following year, didn't he?
yeah, he did.
So,
Mate, that's
yeah, so that was it.
every fan's dream to, tell a player where they're going wrong.
It was it was an incredible night, and I cannot, honestly, Billy Turley was such a top bloke. And the irony, of course, is that Chris Wilder did shake that team up the following year, but he was one of the victims of that because they brought Ryan Clark in, didn't they?
Yeah, mate, I love that. What a story! What a story! I think we've got time for one more story. We could keep speaking for hours, so I'm loving it. Tell us about Phil Bolland.
Yeah, so when I was at uni, I went to Leeds, and I made it my mission to go to any away game within a couple of hour radius to try and sort of tick off the 92 obsessive personality again. So I went to all these weird and wonderful places. These were the days under Ian Atkins when we were knocking around in League Two, and quite a lot of northern outposts back then. So I went to loads of away games, had some brilliant away days. This one particular match, I couldn't drum up any interest from my mates who'd often come along with me just for a day out to go to Hull in a cold November evening, and it was the first or second. It was the second game, I think, after Ian Atkins had been appointed, and there was sort of a little bit of optimism. I think they won the first match, so I was going off to Hull, and it was their last season at Boothby Park. A little bit optimistic. Half-time, 3-0 down, open terrace, pouring down with rain, dark outside. So second half is just a bit of a procession. And it gets to about 75 minutes, and there's absolutely no way we're coming back. So I do that thing that you shouldn't do, but I did, because I thought, I can get the 5 o'clock train if I leave now, or I'm going to have to wait till 6. So I got out of Boothby Park. But of course, the buses don't leave till full-time anyway. So I was the first one in the queue for the bus. Anyway, as I get on the bus, my southern accent gets clocked by these Hull fans. And what started off as a little bit of banter on the bus started to turn a little bit more sinister. And by the end of this bus journey, I'd been told by these Hull fans, we're going to give you 30 seconds to run, basically. Otherwise, we're going to kick your head in. I'm not joking. And so I didn't know if they were joking or not, but I wasn't taking any chances. So I was Chrissy Allen. As soon as that door opened on that bus, I was down that wing, and I was not going down for a penalty. I was away. Jumped this barrier into the toilets where you had to pay to get in. So these scallies didn't want to pay to beat me up, obviously, and hid in a cubicle for the next 45 minutes. Got the 6 o'clock train home. Literally waited for the very last minute to run to the platform just in case they were lurking. As I get on the train, the doors open, and there's the forlorn figure of Phil Bolland slumped across one of those table seats in his Oxford United tracksuit. And he captained the club that afternoon. And because I was maybe in a bit of a blind panic, the words just sort of blurted out of my mouth. Phil, I'm an Oxford fan. And first thing he said to me is, oh, mate, if I had 20 quid, I'd pay for your ticket. And he's like, sit down if you want. The whole journey to Leeds. He was going back to Leeds to visit his girlfriend, he told me. Whole journey back to Leeds. He was effectively telling me how rubbish everything was, how every hotel that Kassam paid for them to stay in, it was like 40 towers. I remember that line. And basically cussing the club big style. And as we got off on the train platform the other side in Leeds, he sort of basically said, well, mate, look, if you're back from uni at Christmas, ring the club and let them know, and I'll get you a ticket. I was like, great, because we're playing Luton and I haven't got a ticket yet, and it's sold out. He got released. Similar story. That was the last time he ever played for Oxford United. And I reckon he must have been told by Ian Atkins, well, you can go home. You don't need to come back on Monday. I think he signed Andy Crosby. So Phil Bolland never played for the club again. And again, he got nosed by me for an hour on the train on the way back to Leeds.
You and your mates are like the death knell of Oxford players. They just get booted after you've had a good chat with them and chewed their ear off.
Yeah.
Right. Mate, I love all these stories. And I think while we're enjoying all this early 2000s nostalgia, I think it seems fitting to tell our listeners, Dan, about our fast-growing Facebook page, which you alluded to a little earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely being part of the TikTok generation myself, Matt, obviously.
Of course you are.
Brave man.
I kind of thought Facebook had died, but how wrong I was. Genuinely, we're just getting more and more and more friends and members on there, including, as I said, loads of former players. One of the former players who is on there is former striker Mark Rule, whom I can report is really well, and he's working in the music industry in Leicester, and he's doing lots of DJ nights and stuff. He's an incredibly cool
I'll write
guy.
to him.
We Si's going to write to him soon. We love Mark Rule, though, don't we? We absolutely love him. Now, for those, I guess, who don't remember Mark or who maybe weren't born then, we have a few of those listeners. We have a few youngsters listening. Of course, we do. A growing young fan base. Mark had a great habit of scoring kind of very important and quite often spectacular goals, right?
He got some absolute beauty, but there is one that has vanished off the face of the earth. Now, I'm really good at finding goals from the depths of YouTube, but I cannot find this anywhere. It was so good that a celebrity fan of ours has sent in a little video urging people to try and find it. So here we go. Here is our celebrity fan.
Saturday, the 15th of November 2003, just 3 days before my 13th birthday, Mark Rule did something unbelievable in injury time at the Abbey. He got the ball, he swiveled, hammered a volley into the far corner, and it was a famous goal. I've got its own segment on Goals on Sunday, as no goals really did in that time at all. But the sad fact is, we can't find it anywhere. Me and my brother have been talking about this for over 10 years. Where is Mark Rule's goal? The goal that kind of written into Oxford United folklore for a small time, now no longer. If anyone has access to it, we need to find it somewhere. It's got to exist. Rawley, where's your goal gone?
The George Ellick on our pod, Dan. Mate, I can't believe this. And who'd have thought we've had Theo's hero on our podcast during an episode while Theo is sitting in his kitchen twiddling his thumbs. He's going to be absolutely gutted. But back to the goal. I think we'd all love to see that again, wouldn't we?
Well, we would, but none more so than Mark Rule himself. As I mentioned, friend of the pod, surely we haven't got yet another celebrity clip, have we? Here we go.
Hello, Mark Rule here. I wanted to put an appeal out to anybody who has seen or has got a video of my goal for Oxford United against Cambridge United. I can't remember what season, 2004 season, 2003, 2004, something like that. One of them seasons there. It was away at Cambridge. It was one where it's come over. I flicked it back over my head, and the defender said I've spun and I've hit it on the volley from the edge of the box, and I think it's cannoned in off the post and gone in. Quite a good goal, if I do say so myself. It's the one goal I can't seem to find online or anything anywhere. I did have it before, but yeah, it's gone missing. So no, don't know where it is. But please, if you could have a look around, dig around in the old VHSs, recordings, see if you can pull it out, get it up, and see if you can send it through to the Oxford podcast, please. Much appreciated. Loving.
Matt, can you think of anyone at all who works at Sky who might be able to help us find this goal? Can you think of anyone? Anyone?
I can't remember. Let's have a little think. Think around if there's only some way of asking him. Oh, hello, Simon.
Do you know, I'm an avid listener to your pods, and I have already looked through the system, and I got very excited when I found the Kidderminster goal that was also a really impressive finish, but not the Cambridge goal. However, now I know that it featured on Goals on Sunday. Let me have another delve, because you're relying on these things being logged, basically, which obviously 20 odd years ago as it is now, they're not all logged. But I did go back using the dates on Soccerbase and had a real trawl and couldn't find it. But let me see if I can go through the Goals on Sunday archive. I'm not promising anything, because I know I try to help you with the Joey Beauchamp missing goals as well. And they kind of, there was that ITV digital period that sort of killed off the chances of getting certain things on the server. But we'll give it a go.
Love that.
It was also on Soccer AM. They did a big thing on it as well on Soccer AM.
Okay. I will ask around and see what I can do.
It would be remiss to not take this opportunity to talk to somebody who actually knows about football, to ask your thoughts on the season so far and kind of look ahead for us. How are you feeling?
Yeah, probably the same as everybody else, actually. You know, very much of the thinking that it's a better squad this year. And I think we're not far from having a full 90-minute performance, because we've had some really good 45-minute performances. And obviously the Bristol City game, it all came together as well. But my big overriding fear is that, through no fault of our own this year, because it is such a difficult league that everybody's acknowledged this season, that we may not just have enough. And it's not for the want of trying, it won't be for the lack of even quality compared to previous years, but maybe we just might fall that little bit short. I hope that's not the case, but it's just, you know, in the matches I've seen this year, for instance, where we played really well but just haven't quite got the result, I think it's going to be really interesting now that we've got Kieran Brown back, because suddenly that is a whole new conundrum. How do you fit some very, very good centre-backs, all of them, into the team? My personal sort of thinking is that maybe with the wingers a little bit hit and miss at the moment, and I'm not normally a fan of playing three at the back, but to get us through to the new year, that might be worth a try. But, you know, I'm just really enjoying it. You know, we can all remember the horrible days of the conference and even those years down in languishing in League Two. So I'm trying to sort of enjoy the moment as much as I can, really. And it is still really cool. You know, it's still really cool when you look at the fixture list and see some of those teams we're up against. You know, I started properly supporting Oxford when we were at this level. And there was a period not that long ago that I really questioned if we'd ever get back to it. So I'm just trying to sort of enjoy it as much as we can. And I really like the fact that we've reinvented the long throw. And I'm very, very much in favour of telling absolutely anyone and everyone who listens that we were the first to do it before this season.
Dan, it's been lovely to actually get a proper football reporter to speak about Oxford and actually give us some insight. So I enjoyed that.
Even though it's basically the same as everybody else. But
Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I don't think I've laughed so much in a while. So thank you very much for sharing your love letters to footballers.
yeah.
I have to ask, how do you feel now you have shared them and they're out there in the world?
Yeah, it's a bit like sort of Graham Torrington in the old days on the radio. Used to read out people's letters on late night with Torrington, isn't it? And that is a very niche reference, by the way, which I would be surprised if more than about 5 listeners know what I'm on about. Yeah, it's been very therapeutic, I must admit. Left me questioning a little bit about my childhood and whether I could have been spending my time doing better things. That, but ultimately, you know, it gave us a good podcast out of it. And yeah, I mean, my favourite player ever, and I know that he was the first one you got on, and I did a podcast with him for the club years ago, and he was the first one I asked to get on. This man, Paul Moody. What's a ledge? So, you know, maybe when I move, that might go up in the office, and yeah, I can look at moods every day and just remember those bullet penalties and mazy dribbles.
I have to ask, we haven't seen any letters to or from friend of the pod, John Narbett.
No. Did notice, because again, maybe that slightly creepy side came out of me again when I knew I was doing this pod, and I did get stuck down a bit of a rabbit hole of looking, because I noticed a couple of ex-players on the group, and so I was looking at your friends on Facebook, which I know is a very creepy thing to do, and I saw John Narbett on there. So, you know, there is hope. A player who, again, I would have watched, but I don't remember a great deal of him, if I'm being totally honest with you.
15 games he played for us. 15 games, 0 goals.
We've now had Paul Wanless. We've now had Mark Rule, but still no John Narbett. And listen, I kind of promised the guy we would get him on.
It's going to happen.
And and actually, genuinely, fans were asking me at the last game, when is that going to happen? So that is going to need to happen at some point.
It's going to happen. Let's just say, due to our Facebook friendship, he has been sending me pictures from his recent holiday to the UK and all sorts. So it's going to happen. Me and the Narb are now great friends.
Please, let's get him on soon. Listeners, a reminder, you can find us on Facebook, as Dan has been saying. It's a growing page and we're having a lot of fun there. TikTok, obviously, we're massive there. Instagram, Blue Sky. And I post quite a lot on X about the pod too. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Simon. I hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely loved it. It was quality. Glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Dan and I will be back after the Sheffield Wednesday game to reflect on what is a pretty important couple of games, I think it's fair to say. And we'll hopefully have Theo back in his stat kitchen. So see you soon, everyone.
Forward to it. Thanks again, Si. Cheers, everyone.
The big man with a big goal on the big occasion.